detectives, and welcome to my video for July. I hope you're really enjoying your summer holidays. I've just been on mine, but I'm now back. And as you can see from the bunting behind me, I am getting ready for the launch of Top Marks for Murder. This beautiful choral book, the 8th adventure in the Murder Most Unladylike Mysteries series, is coming out in the UK and Ireland on the 8th of August. It will also be out in Australia and New Zealand and South Africa and Hong Kong, but it'll be a few weeks later than the 8th before you guys get it. But if you are in the UK and Ireland, your wait is almost over. You have just 1 week to go before Top Marks for Murder comes out. To celebrate the release of Top Marks for Murder, I'm going to be travelling all over the UK to visit as many of you as possible and to sign as many copies of Top Marks for Murder as I can. I'm going to be starting off in Oxford on the 8th of August on publication day. I'm going to be in Oxford Waterstones doing a free signing. Then that weekend I'm going to be going first to Cardiff and Crickhowell and then to Bristol to sign more copies of the books, and then the weekend after that I'm going up to Scotland. I'm going to be at the Edinburgh International Festival of Literature, which I am so excited about. I have a solo event on the 17th that I think is sold out at the moment, but it's very possible you might be able to get return tickets, so do ask at the box office. And then after that, I have an event with Sharna Jackson, who wrote the brilliant High Rise Mystery, on the 18th of August. And that still does have tickets, so you can get a ticket if you want to see me and Sharna talk about our murder mystery novels and how to write and edit mystery stories. I'll also have a free signing at Golden Hair Books in Edinburgh that weekend, and if you want to find out more details about that, just check out my website. The next weekend, on the 24th of August, I'm coming to Birmingham. I'm going to be at Foyles Birmingham, which is the store in Birmingham New Street Station, and I'm going to be signing as many books as I can in a free signing event. And then the next day, the Sunday, I'm coming to Waterstones in Finchley Road in London to do another free signing event there. So that is my London event. If you are in London, that is the day for you, the 25th of August, the Sunday. Those are all my August events this year, but if you didn't hear the name of a town near you, don't worry, I have lots more coming up. I'm planning another little mini tour in October, so it's very likely if you missed out this time, I will be in your area next time. So that is what is coming up for me next month in August when Top Marks for Murder comes out. And of course, you can still pre-order Top Marks for Murder, and I would really suggest you do. One of the nicest things you can do for an author is to pre-order their book before it comes out, because it makes their publishers look at the first week figures and feel very pleased, feel very impressed by how many people wanted to read that book, and that means it's more likely that your favorite author will be given another book contract and be allowed to write more of your favorite books. But now I'm going to tell you about some of the best books that I read in July, and it was a wonderful month of book reading. There's so many great books around at the moment, and some old favorites that I got to revisit. The first book I've chosen this month is Patina by Jason Reynolds. Now, this is the second book in a series, and you might remember me recommending the first one, which is Ghost. You might remember me recommending this earlier this year. Well, Ghost was great, and now this is the sequel. This is the story of another kid. Patina is a girl for whom winning is everything. If she's not winning, she has lost. And the book starts with her coming second in her 800-meter race, and she is furious with herself. She feels like she has completely failed. And this might seem kind of surprising at first until you find out a bit more about who Patina is and what her life is like, and then it starts to make a lot of sense. Patina has a little sister, Maddie, and Maddie and Patina live with Patina's uncle and aunt. That is because when Patina was 6 years old, her father just didn't wake up one morning. He just died. And her mother got diabetes and they had to amputate both of her legs, which means even though she loves Maddie and Patina, she can't care for them in the way they need to be looked after. So they have gone to live with their uncle and their aunt. And they're really wonderful people. They're really lovely. But of course, they aren't Maddie and Patina's ma. So Patina feels really pulled apart by this life that she's living, and she's just been moved to a new school, Chester Academy, which is really posh. She doesn't like it. She misses her old school. She misses her friends. She just feels really frantic at all times. She feels like she has to hold it together and prove that she can cope, prove that she is the best. So that's how the story begins. And this is a book all about Patina learning the value of teamwork, learning how to become really part of a team, how to listen to other people, how to pay attention, how to make new friends. And also, it's about Patina learning that sometimes letting go of the routine, letting things get chaotic, letting things go a bit wrong actually can be really helpful. You don't have to win all the time. You don't have to be perfect. This is a book for you if you love running just as much as Patina does, but it's also a book for people who don't really care about running like me, people who just want to read a really engaging, fun, fast-paced, well-told story about kids who seem really realistic, kids who seem like kids you might actually meet. This book is for anyone 7+. Whether or not you love running, you will enjoy this book. It's funny, it's sad, it's happy, it's just a really wonderful story. And I cannot wait now for the third book in the series, which should be coming soon. The next book I've chosen is from another author who I really admire, and it is Katherine Rundle's The Good Thieves. Now, Katherine Rundle is one of my favourite authors working at the moment. I love The Explorer by her, I love Rooftoppers by her, The Wolf Wilder, and this is another fantastic book. Katherine is so imaginative. She sends readers to the ends of the earth, to so many different interesting places, different interesting times, and with characters that you really, really fall in love with. The Good Thieves is set in the 1920s in New York, and it stars a girl called Vita who travels from the UK, travels by boat to New York because she and her mother hear that her beloved grandfather has been cheated out of his beautiful house on the Hudson River by a wicked robber baron who took advantage of his sorrow when his wife died to basically take the house deeds from him. Vita's grandfather is desolate without his house, without somewhere to live, and Vita just wants to make it better. She just wants to solve all of his problems. Now, she can't exactly steal back the entire house for him, but there is something that she realizes she can do, because there is a precious emerald necklace that her grandfather talks about that she realizes she can take back from him. It is hidden somewhere in this house on the Hudson, and if only Vita could just break into it, she could steal the emerald necklace from the horrible robber who has the house, give it to her grandfather, and ensure that he has enough money to live happily and comfortably. So Vita puts together a heist, and it is a genius heist. Vita is a very clever character, and I know that Katherine is a very clever author because this heist is so twisty. I didn't even get all of the different bits of the puzzle that Katherine was putting together. Vita is a crack marksman. She can hurl knives from far away into almost anything. She's been practicing for years, but she's had polio, which means that she's not the fastest runner, so she needs other people with other skills to help her in this heist. So she goes around New York enlisting the help of some very interesting, very unusual children to help her with her task. And the story of their friendship is almost as wonderful as the story of the heist. This is a book perfect for anyone who loves mysteries, who loves stories of adventure and danger, who loves reading stories about history that are as exciting as history can be, because I know, and Katherine knows, that history is fascinating and wonderful and strange, and she puts all of that into her 1920s New York. I would say it's perfect for anyone 8, 9+, and definitely perfect for anyone who loves my Murder Most Unladylike Mysteries books. People often ask me what my favourite book, what my favourite author was when I was younger, and I usually answer Agatha Christie because of course she was hugely influential on me, and she is one of the main reasons why I write murder mysteries. But my other answer is always Diana Wynne Jones, and she was an author I discovered when I was about 7, and I have been just totally in love with her brain, with her stories, with the world she creates ever since that day. I have been lucky enough to be invited to a Diana Wynne Jones conference next month in Bristol, which is where she lived for quite a while and where a lot of her books are set. And so to prepare for that, I have been doing a lot of rereading of Diana Wynne Jones books. And the first thing I want to say about that is that rereading is, I think, one of the most wonderful things that a reader can do. It's really nice to read new books. I love reading new books and discovering new authors, new stories. But there is something just so special about rereading a book that you love, because every time you do it, you notice something new, something different, something that interests you, something you want to think about. And when I was younger, I reread and reread and reread my favorite Diana Wynne Jones stories. I probably read this book, not this edition because this is a new one that I picked up, but I've probably read this book about 10 times, and it still fascinates me. I still love to think about the themes in it, and I'm noticing new things now that I've read it when I'm older. I hear a lot from teachers and parents who are really worried that the children they're looking after are rereading a lot rather than reading new stories. And these adults assume that because the child is rereading, they're not learning anything new. They're not finding out new things, not thinking about new things. They're just retreading and retreading. They think it's a problem. And what I always say to them is, actually, it is one of the best things that any reader can do. Because the first time you read a book, you basically get down the story. You basically learn who the characters are, you learn their names, and you just follow along with what's happening. But the second time you read a book, you start noticing what else is going on in the story. You start seeing maybe a bit more of what the setting is. You start seeing about some of the other things the author is doing. Then if you read it again, you notice other things again. You see themes that maybe you missed the first few times. The characters stop feeling just like people you've met and they start feeling like your actual friends. Every time you reread, you'll notice new words, you'll learn new things, you'll see things that you didn't see before. There is so much to be gained by rereading, and I would recommend it for anyone who loves books, anyone who wants to learn how to read better. Read the same thing 5 times over, only if you enjoy it, of course. If you don't like the book, don't read it again. Don't even read it the first time, just put it down. But if you love the book, read it again and again and again, and it will show you so many new things each time. I had the most wonderful time rereading Diana Wynne Jones, discovering my favourite books, my favourite characters again. And I have chosen this book because it had a lot of things in it that I had forgotten since the last time I read it. A Tale of Time City starts off in World War II, and it starts with a girl called Vivien Leigh being evacuated from London into the country, which of course is something that happened in World War II, and it happened to Diana Wynne Jones. She was born just before World War II, and she was sent away to Wales to be evacuated. So Vivien's story, Vivien's feelings on the train, you can tell are feelings that Diana Wynne Jones really understands. But that's only the beginning of the story, because when Vivien gets to the train station, she doesn't meet her Aunt Marty. She finds a boy called Jonathan. Now, she doesn't know Jonathan. She's never met him before, but he's got her name, and he says, come with me, Vivien Leigh. And so Vivien follows him, and suddenly there's this weird sensation, and they're not on the train station anymore. They're in this strange little pod, and Vivien comes out of the pod with Jonathan, and she realizes that she is not in England anymore. She's not in World War II anymore. She has been transported in time and space to this place called Time City. Time City is out of time. Time City is a place that is not any part of our history, but it watches over the whole of history that tries to make history go right. And Jonathan is kidnapped with Vivien because something is going wrong with Time City. Time City is crumbling. It seems to be failing. And Jonathan believes that that is all Vivien's fault. There is something wrong with Vivien, and she is altering time. She is causing Time City to collapse. Of course, that turns out to be wrong, but it's still true that Time City is falling apart. And so Jonathan and Vivien and another kid called Sam have to go on this crazy adventure through time to lots of different time periods to solve the problem of what on earth is happening to Time City and save Time City from crumbling to dust. It's the most incredible science fiction adventure. Diana Wynne Jones does time travel so well. She really makes you believe in all the different time periods that the kids travel to. And Time City itself is such a clever creation. I love the idea of a city outside of time that is watching us all the time and is trying to manipulate us and make time go right. So if you haven't read A Tale of Time City or any of Diana Wynne Jones's books, I would really recommend you do. They're all very different. Some of them are fantasy, some of them are science fiction, some of them are more the real world, but they're all absolutely fantastic. This one I would say is for people about 9, 10 plus, but you might read it when you're a bit younger if you want to. If you love time travel, if you love imagination, if you love strange new worlds, you will really, really enjoy this book. And finally, my YA pick this month is All That Impossible Space by Anna Morgan. Now this is a proof. The final cover is a much brighter sea blue, and I have slightly cheated this month because this book is currently only available in Australia and New Zealand. But it is such a fantastic book. It ticks so many of my favorite things boxes that I had to talk about it. And I really hope as well that it might someday come to the UK because I think it's fantastic and I really think UK readers will enjoy it as well. This is the story of Laura, who goes to a posh girls' school in Australia. You can already tell why I like it. And Laura is really struggling. Her older sister has gone on a gap year and pretty much just vanished. She's not really contacting Laura's parents, even though she's sending postcards to Laura. Laura's best friend is being really cruel, really toxic, and pushing Laura to do things she doesn't really want to do, like join up to the school musical. There's a new girl at school who's sort of mysterious and interesting, but Laura's really worried about what her friend will say if she befriends her as well. One of the only bright spots in Laura's new school year is that she has a new history teacher, Mr. Grant. And Mr. Grant starts off his teaching by handing out some interesting historical mysteries. And the story that he gives Laura is the story of the Somerton Man. In 1948, in Adelaide, which is in Australia, a man was found on the beach. He was slumped over, he was wearing quite a nice suit, he had a cigarette in his mouth that it wasn't lit, and he was dead. Then an autopsy was done on him, and it turned out that he had been poisoned. They looked really carefully on his clothes, they checked everything he was wearing, and they couldn't find anything to identify him. They couldn't work out where he was from. They didn't know if he was Australian, if he was American, if he was British, if he was from somewhere else. No family came forward to claim him when they put his picture in the papers. One of the only things that this man had on him that would have helped identification, that was in any way interesting or useful, was a little scrap of paper tucked into his clothes. And this paper had just 2 words on it, and those words were Tamam Shud. Now, Tamam Shud meant something to people in 1948. Tamam Shud is the last 2 words of a book of poetry called the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, which was super popular in the 1940s. It was kind of the mindfulness of the 1940s. It was a book of poetry people read to help them think about the world, help them learn how to live life better. And so a lot of people had this book. But not a lot of people obviously had a book with the last 2 words, Tamam Shud, torn off. And Tamam Shud just means it is over, it's the end. So off the police go looking for this book with the 2 torn words, Tamam Shud, and they put out a request for anyone who might have seen it. And they get some leads, and it leads them to a nurse who lives actually pretty close to where the man was found. And the nurse, though, when they show a picture of the dead man, she says she's never met him before. She says this even though she has a little kid, her son, who is a toddler, and he looks strangely like the dead man. He looks like this missing man, but she says she's no way, she's never met this man before, she doesn't know who he is, so that lead goes cold. And the mystery of who the man on Somerton Beach in Adelaide, who he could be, that has never been solved. It has gone on for more than 50 years now. People have been looking for answers. Sometimes people think he might be a spy because he doesn't have any labels on his clothes. He has nothing to identify him in the way that perhaps a spy might have. And that is the mystery of the Somerton Man. That is the mystery that Laura is trying to solve in this book. This is definitely a good book if you love my Murder Most Unladylike Mysteries series and you want to take a little bit of a step up from it in the same way as I was telling you about A Good Girl's Guide to Murder a few months ago. I definitely think this is a step up. This is for somebody 12, 13 plus, but if you love solving crimes, if you love reading about people who go to posh girls' schools, if you love reading about friendship and teenage life, as well as one of the most compelling cold cases in Australian crime history, you will really, really enjoy this book. This is Anna Morgan's first book, and I'm really looking forward to what she does after this. So that's all for me this month. I'll be back next month to celebrate the publication of Top Marks for Murder, to tell you a bit more about it, and to hint a little bit at what is next after this book for Daisy and Hazel, because this is not the end of their adventures. That's all I can say right now. And of course, I'll also be back with my picks from August for your reading. But until then, have a great holiday and goodbye.